Wait a minute. This isn't my
Avatar.
Disappointed!
So during the beginning of the Netflix Avatar, a Earthbender steals a scroll from the Fire Nation. He's captured, but the scroll is given to one of his friends who escaped. Then we find out from exposition that the
Fire Nation's going to attack Ba Sing Se, I believe. The Earthbender blocks himself in with the Firebenders where, he didn't need to. He could have put a wall up between him and the Firebenders and then got to the ostrich horse thing and escaped. He totally could have got away. They did not need to kill him. They were like, hey, this isn't your avatar.
The Earthbender is unalived.
Sozin hugs him with fire.
After all of this, we see Aang flying without his glider. He doesn't need a glider in the cartoon world. Yes, he does.
And it just looks goofy. Aang looks goofy. Give him you have the glider.
Aang is told that he is the Avatar. They're like, yeah, we was gonna wait to tell you, but use the Avatar.
He doesn't run away. He just goes out to get some air. Then he gets caught in a storm. And
he's headed back to the Airbender temple.
He's like, oh man, this storm's pretty bad. Appa, we should go home. And then a tidal wave catches him. And then he's trapped for 100 years. And then when he wakes up in the future, people are like, how could you leave us? In the original show, he chose to leave.
I was so excited when the Fire Nation attacked the Airbenders because in the cartoon, Monk Gyatso is surrounded by unalive Fire Nation soldiers.
Skeletons clad in Fire Nation gear.
In the new show, I was so disappointed because Monk Gyatso does not hug anybody with air to comfort of permanent sleep.
Monk Gyatso doesn't take out any of the Fire Nation soldiers in this.
100 years in the future, Katara is waterbending and is asked by her brother to go on a fishing mission because there's no food and the people returned without fish.
And then while they're out there fishing, they stumble upon...
They find Aang. He breaks loose from the giant iceberg that he's in, and Zuko's like, oh, shining light. Must be the Avatar. Then Zuko finds the Southern Water Tribe without even having to have a map or to try. There's no flare that leads him there. He just finds them, even though Aang was not at the Water Tribe when he was brought out of the light.
He was just Water Tribe adjacent.
Yeah.
And then
they left Appa behind for no reason.
Yeah, I don't get why they left Appa because that was just.
They have a joke which was Sky Bison.
Have you seen my Sky Bison? Where's my Sky Bison? Whistle. Oh look, hey, Sky Bison.
Sky Bison. When Zuko shows up, we get a nice scene of the Water Tribe children throwing rocks harder than any Earthbender in the M. Night Shyamalan Avatar.
So. Aang surrenders and Zuko takes Aang, and then Katara and Sokka go on a rescue mission to save Aang. While Aang is on Zuko's ship, he steals Zuko's notebook. Aang just walks off Zuko's ship, and then Zuko sends a fireball at Aang as he's flying away, and then when his glider's taken away, now he's falling to his death. Whereas earlier we saw that he could fly, so don't lie to me, Netflix.
Yeah, Aang is caught by Sokka. Sokka catches Aang by the hand and pulls him to safety.
Yeah, and they get rid of the scene where Aang goes into the Avatar state, completely getting rid of that scene. And so they don't break Zuko's ship. Zuko's ship is perfectly fine in the next episode.
The first time Aang enters into the Avatar state, it's after he sees Monk Gyatso, and he sends everybody flying, and there's wind everywhere.
I mean, technically, that might be the second time, because he did trap him in the ice.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah.
The first, deadly attempt of...
Yeah, the first time he endangers anybody in the Avatar state
is when he finds dead Gyatso.
So, in episode 2, we start out with Zuko throwing a tantrum about somebody took his notebook. Where's my notebook? He's trashed his room, thrown everything everywhere, because, when you're looking for something in your room, it's better to make a mess and throw stuff everywhere. That makes it easier to find stuff.
Right here, they introduce Momo, and then immediately, you forget Momo even exists, because they immediately trash it by showing the fact that Katara already has the waterbending scroll.
Katara already has the waterbending scroll because Gran had it and gives it to Katara. Now, I don't know about other people, but when you need somebody to be able to protect themselves, taking away an ability that would make them stronger and able to protect themselves is kind of dumb. And then Aang decides to name his lemur Momo. Why Momo? Because he looks like a Momo. Momo looked like a Momo.
Momo looks like a Momo. It's not the fact that Momo was sitting in a peach tree eating peaches. No, Momo looks like a Momo. Momo looks like a big fat peach
Big fuzzy butt.
Big fuzzy butt. What's a peach emoji used for, huh? Netflix, what's a peach emoji used for? A butt.
Yeah.
You're telling me Momo looks like a butt? I think not.
Hey,
Their
what is
ship
it?
got broke, and then they're like, oh, let's go get some maps from Zhao. Well, in the original, their ship gets broken. But in the new one, they're like, oh, well, we need them to meet Zhao, so let's just have them go look for some maps.
Yeah, these maps will help them find Aang. Not sure how, but they'll help them find Aang. And they'll just say that the maps are to help them catch flying fart squids or something. I don't remember.
Shark
what it was.
squids.
Anyway, Aang and them go to Kyoshi Island because Aang needs to be able to control his avatar state because the avatar state makes him dangerous. Only time he ever was dangerous was once when he used the avatar state.
Yeah. Whereas, had you shown him, destroy Zuko's ship during the avatar state, maybe I could believe that he's dangerous during the avatar state. But the only time we've seen him be in the avatar state, he was able to come out of it and control himself.
He was able to bring himself out of it. He doesn't need to learn to control it. He already does.
Exactly. He was able to control it.
And whenever they have him acting like a kid, he's more acting like an adult playing with kids. It's like when an adult tries to play tag with kids and they're like, oh, I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. But instead, Aang is a child doing that with other children.
The closest look we get at him being a kid is when he runs into that statue on the airball.
So Aang and his friends reach Kyoshi Island and they meet Suki. And then we cut to Zhao finding out that Zuko is a big fat liar boy. Zhao sneaks behind Zuko's back and talks to Zuko's crew, and that's how he finds out that Zuko had the Avatar and lost the Avatar.
Yeah, and now he's going to find the Avatar himself and bring him in. Or at least that's what he thinks he's going to do.
Okay, so Sokka tries to flirt with Suki. And while Sokka's trying to flirt with Suki, he tells her how he's a big soldier in the Southern Water Tribe and he's protecting the Southern Water Tribe. And then she's like, from all the way from here? And he's like, well, I'm not protecting them now.
I'm protecting them by stopping the war. Katara had to go? He tries to get Katara to do the flirting for him.
It turns out bad.
I think they're implying that Sokka just woke up from a big nap and he's washing his face off. And he turns around and Suki's staring at him.
And he's shirtless. And so he's like, no, look at my naked body.
He starts trying to cover himself up. It was like one of the only funny jokes in the show.
It was one of the few funny jokes in the show.
Oh, yeah. And then Katara is learning from the waterbending scroll that she got from her grandma. And she's like, oh, Aang, you want to learn with me? And he's like, waterbending? That's not what the Avatar does.
Aang's character arc is non-existent. Oh, there's more flirting between Sokka and Suki, but this time Suki is the flirter and Sokka is the flirtee. And Sokka starts out, he's just using his boomerang, and she's like, yeah, I'd love to learn how to use your boomerang. And then she throws her fan.
Yeah, her fan.
And she's like, see how strong I am? And then they start flirt wrestling, but then she starts to choke him out.
Well, so Sokka was stretching, and when Sokka's stretching, she takes that chance to start choking him out.
And then he finally escapes from her grasp, and then he
he's
walks
walking
away.
away.
He looks over his shoulder at her like she's insane because
and
she's insane.
Yeah, and then she was like, oh, that wasn't flirting?
The look on her face is like she also doesn't know how to flirt. So Aang enters into the spirit world right here, which means that he doesn't need to enter the spirit world during the Heibai episode, which doesn't exist here in Netflix realm.
It does, but it's like a mangled version of the Heibai episode. It's bad.
It doesn't
It's not
even
good.
need to exist because
It is like the worst episode
the
of the
Heibai
show.
episode shows that Aang can enter into the spirit world. Instead, he enters into the spirit world to talk to you to keep.
Yeah, and then Kyoshi tells him that the Northern Water Tribe is in danger and that they're at risk of being destroyed by the Fire Nation.
Is it Zhao or
Zuko.
Yeah, Zuko.
Well, they both showed up. Zhao is attacking the Kyoshiites, and Zuko is going for Aang.
Kyoshi's like, hey, I'll show you how to be the Avatar. And then, she puts on his clothes. She walks up to his desk, which is the third from the teacher in the front of the row. She sits down, and then the teacher's like, hey, is that you, Aang? And she's like, yeah, it's me, Aang. And then she takes the test for him.
So there's a rebellion scene where there's some Fire Nation civilians. They're trying to take out
Fire Nation
Fire
from the
Lord
inside.
Ozai?
Yeah, they're running to kill Fire Lord Ozai. They show up and then they find out that their inside man is actually Ozai's daughter.
Azula.
And then they get burned, hugged with fire by Fire Lord Ozai, and it's a warm embrace into a long sleep.
Where they will never rebel again. Katara is already mastering waterbending. She's never had a teacher. Her and Aang don't train together. And all she's doing is looking at some pictures, and all of a sudden, she now knows how to do waterbending. Sure, okay.
Yeah, she doesn't, but she does. When Katara needs to use waterbending because they're being attacked, she's a master of it. She's like great at it. When she's practicing, she's a bumbling idiot and doesn't know how to do it. And Momo likes Sokka. He starts emulating Sokka's things that Sokka does.
Yeah, because, Sokka's a character, unlike Aang, who's a lazy bum.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
this weirdly delivered line from Sokka where he's like, oh, what's not to like? And it's just really poorly...
Katara tells Sokka...
I don't know what Suki ever saw in you. And then he's like, oh, but what's not to like?
What's not to
and
like?
it's just the way... It's the way he delivers it. I don't know.
It's the way he delivers the line, instead of being like, what's not to like?
And 1 minute the acting
like,
is...
what's not to like? And he's like, kind of...
He's like, what's not to like?
Yeah.
Or whatever. I don't know. It's just weird.
It
I
doesn't
feel
fit.
like 1 minute the acting is great, and then the next minute the acting is really bad, and I'm not sure if it's acting,
hard to tell if it's the
or
acting
directing.
or the directing.
So Zhao and Zuko are in the ship in a meeting, and Zuko starts getting really whiny.
Yeah, Zuko is... Compared to the cartoon where this happens, Zuko and Zhao are talking, and Zhao's like, yeah, I'm going to go take over now. And then Zuko, like, jumps at him and tries to attack him. He's held back by Zhao's soldiers. That's the cartoon. In this one, Zuko's like, but no, I don't want anyone else to know about it.
Zhao's like, oh, I'll tell some of my inside crew and they can help us. And then Zuko's like, no one else can know. No.
Whereas in the cartoon, he would have been like, no one else can know. And he would have been like commanding. And in this, he's like not commanding. He's whiny baby.
At the end of the scene, one of the officers in Zuko's crew starts gossiping. He starts gossiping about Zhao. Zuko lectures him, and then Iroh delivers another one of the 3 funny jokes in the show. He's like, an officer you don't like. It's really good. I like the way it was done, but...
An officer you don't like?
That's beside the point.
I don't know. Most of the jokes fall flat in the show.
As they're going to the city of Omashu, Aang just starts doing more exposition dumping.
Oh.
So Aang's like, their messenger system where they send messages...
Their mail delivery system.
Their mail delivery system is great. And then...
Yeah, Aang is like, Omashu, a cultural hub where they have great stuff, and we have, and if you look to your left, you can see the air chutes,
it's kind of
or
like
the mail chutes.
It's kind of like watching somebody do a tour of a museum or something, and they're like, look it over here, and if you turn to this side...
And then we see what we think is an airbender, but it's not an airbender. It's just the kid in the wheelchair from the original show, which made sense why Aang thought it was an airbender, because they were in the original show.
Temple.
They're at an air temple, not Omashu.
They could have just almost cut that.
I don't think that plot line is necessary to the overall show.
And then they also cram Jet's story.
Yeah, they squeeze Jet into this episode pointlessly. Jet's whole arc and character is just pretty much stupid in the show. He's dumb. I don't like Jet in this show.
Yeah.
The actor did a fine job.
Oh, and there's more of Katara waterbending, and she's able to waterbend once again because there's a crate on fire or a...
Yeah, when the plot demands, Katara is great at freaking waterbending, but when there's no active that Katara's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't waterbend now. But 2 seconds ago, she was like a master at it. I did like the way Jet's fight scenes looked. They were really well choreographed and stuff. And some of the bending looks really, really nice in the show, and other bending looks a bit floppy. They look
Jet's-
like they're flopping around.
Jet's his clothing design is kind of, he's got
Most
foam
of
shoulder pads made of foam.
most of
Like-
Jet's costume looks pretty good, but then his metal shoulder pad looks like it's made of EVA foam.
And Sokka's are the same way. They look like
Yeah,
EVA
Sokka's
foam.
shoulder pads back in the Water Tribe were also really bad looking. I guess they're not bad. They just look kind of cosplay-ish.
They're definitely cosplay-ish.
Because they shortened Jet's whole episode, all of Jet's lackeys, like Longshot, the Duke, and the Pipsqueak and stuff, they lack character in the show. Like a bunch of characters. Aang, I'm looking at you.
We're the good guys.
We're the good guys.
Sai doesn't get a chance to turn over the airship plans to the Fire Nation. If you watch through it, there's no chance at one point in there that he could give the stuff to the Fire Nation before he switches sides. So either he switches sides and he's like, yeah, Sokka, I'll be the good guy now. Just give me a second to go give these plans to my Fire Nation contact. Gotta give my plans to the Fire Nation contact before I become a good guy all the way. At the end of this, Jet tries to blow up King Boomy.
I wish he'd succeeded.
If Boomy had gone boomy, we wouldn't have the Boomy episode, which Netflix boomied all over, and we know boomy is it's code word for poop. They pooped on it. They pooped all over the Boomy episode. So Uncle Iroh is kidnapped. At the end of episode 3, Iroh sacrifices himself and is captured by the Earthbenders so that Zuko can escape. They combine the Secret Tunnel episode, the Iroh episode, and the Boomy episode. They give Flopsy a statue, but he doesn't exist. There is no Flopsy.
Flopsy gets a freaking Stan Lee cameo where his poster's in the background. I don't like that they cast a younger actor and then they put him in prosthetics and then they have him making this weird face the whole time. Boomy's whole character arc in this episode is just, it feels like he's just mad at Aang because Aang
left him.
and that's all it is. Boomy in the original show, I know I keep comparing it to the original show, but the original show is what you should be comparing it to if you're watching the Netflix show. I don't know, I just feel like Boomy in the original show had a purpose for being there.
Yeah, he thinks outside the box. He doesn't think the same way everyone
He's
else does.
Teaching Aang to think outside the box.
From what I remember right, Omashu still exists because Boomy thought outside the box and was able to better defend Omashu.
Whereas in this one, it's not, think outside the box. It's think within the terms of the box, and you have to make one decision or the other, and somebody will die. I mean, not be alive anymore.
So Oma and Shu were taught how to earthbend by the badger moles,
Exactly.
but in here the badger moles just dig. They don't actually earthbend.
There's no earthbending.
There's no earthbending.
It's digging.
Oma and Shu learned how to get a shovel and dig a tunnel.
Earthbending is digging with a shovel. Therefore, if you work a construction job right now and you're digging with a shovel, you're an earthbender. And with that logic, if you water your garden with a hose, you're a waterbender.
Sokka and Katara just know to turn their lights off. Sokka, at least at the distance, he can see some of the distant phosphorus stones.
Yeah, but I swear that in the original they
don't
didn't
glow
see the stones until
shut off.
after the lights had gone out.
The badger moles can sense emotional feelings, and that's how they find their way. So I guess the badger moles taught Oma and Shu how to sense each other's feelings.
And that helped them how to earthbend. And also, that means that in the future, when we get introduced to Toph, she's going to know how to sense feelings and not just people through the earth.
Boomy lectures Aang about being a child.
Oh, yeah.
Which we know not to be true from the rest of the show, where Aang doesn't act like a child at all. He doesn't try and ride the wild koi. He's not looking to do fun stuff and enjoy himself.
And so Aang and Boomy are fighting. Boomy challenged Aang to a fight to teach him that sometimes you need to make the hard decision. And then Boomy drops a rock on Aang's head and a rock on his head, and Aang is holding up the rocks. And then later on, we see that Aang could just shift the rocks off to the side and nobody needed to die. Whereas, for some reason, he needed Sokka to move Boomy like 4 inches to the right. Oh, and Heibai. The whole Heibai episode. Heibai isn't even necessary.
Yeah, say bye to Heibai, because
It's
that
a cameo.
doesn't exist.
Heibai is a cameo meant for trailer clout, I guess. They just wanted to have Heibai so they could put him in the trailer.
Yeah.
And
Look, we have Heibai here in the commercial, and then you get to the show and you're like,
and that's about as much as is in the actual show. What they
Right.
showed in the commercial is about what you get in the show.
we have Heibai at home.
Yeah.
The Heibai at home.
I will say Heibai looked great, although a little small. I thought Heibai was supposed to be like the size of like a 4-story building.
He's huge. And
Oh yeah, and Aang takes Katara and
Oh, yeah.
Sokka to the spirit world when he's trying to enter the spirit world.
so Zuko enters into a bar trying to find information about Aang. The people in the bar exposition dump all the stuff that we didn't get in this series because they dumped a bunch of episodes
Well,
and then they were like, yeah, let's talk about those episodes, but you don't get to see them. There's some funny stuff with June where she flirts with Uncle Iroh as opposed to Iroh flirting with her in the cartoon.
Big Bird is in the spirit realm.
Yeah, the library bird is in the spirit realm.
The bird's distrust for humans was because Zhao stole papers from the library. That's like the whole thing. But for some reason, you put this bird here to exposition dump so that I guess you could remove the library episode later on, maybe?
Which-
So the library, I guess, is just a non-existent episode. It's really weird, and I'm not sure where they're going with the next season.
And we'd all eat, be happy.
She doesn't even go here.
Right here, because they're in the spirit world, Katara starts hallucinating, and she remembers some stuff that happened in the past, and she remembers the night her mom died. Her mom pretended to waterbend,
At
which
the soldier.
at the firebender soldier, which made him put the mom to sleep.
And put her to, which means he was protecting sleep.
He did that on his own in the original, whereas in this one, she pretty much attacked him, so pretty much what he was doing was self-defense. Don't change it. The guy was a piece of garbage in the original. Why would you do this? We get revealed to us that the ice trials already happened in the past. We're not going to get to see those. So once again, more, hey, remember the good times?
Yeah,
We're not going
and-
to show you that. So we're just going to get rid of that. And then we're going to make Sokka's dad a jerk and a terrible leader because he's like, oh, my son is bad. My son is just, some people aren't meant to have lives in their hands, you know? And then he
then he
leaves
leaves-
everyone's lives in Sokka's hands
leaves-
when he leaves to fight the Fire Nation.
Ko's eyeball does not look like an eyeball. It looks like a brown eye.
It's a butthole. It's a butthole. He looks like a butthole.
A Heibai resolution is Aang plants seed.
And then Heibai just goes away. They rush Roku, and Roku...
Yeah. He shows up at the Roku temple and then immediately gets attacked.
Yeah.
Is
he-
saved by the Fire Nation traitor, because I guess they would consider him a traitor. That guy takes Aang into the temple.
And then we cut to June pulling a piece of Aang's cloak off a tree, so her Shearshu can, I think her name's like Nala or something like that.
Yeah.
The Shearshu can track Aang, but Roku Island is just that, an island in the middle of the ocean. How did the Shearshu get there?
Yeah.
Roku drops a comic book Easter egg talking about the Mother of Faces, which didn't need to go here. Honestly, this was so bafflingly bad to some of these decisions that it makes it hard for me to remember what happened in the original show.
Aang gets the device that he needs and leaves.
And then Aang, when he's leaving, gets caught by June and the Shearshu.
Aang, he's taken to Zuko and Uncle Iroh, and then they lose
Gets-
custody of him to
Zhao. And Zhao takes him to a Fire Nation stronghold. Zhao was promoted, which is why he has the ability to just take Aang from
Zuko's
Zuko.
sister gave him all sorts of power.
I liked most of the Blue Spirit stuff. I thought that the mask looked pretty good. I thought that most of the choreography was okay. Although there's this one scene where Zuko kind of Naruto runs. But, it was fine. I liked it. The Blue Spirit stuff was good.
Aang and Zuko finally escape Zhao, and Zuko gets knocked out. Aang takes Zuko to a...
Safe hiding place.
Iroh's talking to Zuko's crew and explains to them about how Zuko was injured and why Zuko was injured. And then the crew find out that they were the reason Zuko lost his eye, and the reason they're still alive is because of Zuko.
Well, and then before that, though, you see the Agni Kai, which I thought was fine. I kind of liked how ambiguous it was in the original show, but the fight scene was good. But the way Zuko gets his scar, Ozai presses fire into Zuko's face. Not just shoots fire, he holds fire on his eye, which is why it's so baffling to me as to why they made his scar smaller, but they made the way he gets his scar even worse. After Zuko's eye has been burned, Iroh's like, oh, your eye will be fine. The doctors told me your eye will be fine, which means you can continue to look at me. It was another rare good joke in the show.
Zhao performs some more butt monkey tricks, and Zuko goes boom. He's exploded.
Yeah, so you see the scene where Aang flies into the Northern Water Tribe, and some guy is looking the opposite direction of Aang, and he's like, "Welcome, Avatar!"
He's not even looking. He can't even see him coming. It was almost like he was practicing. What would have made it funny is if he was practicing, because they knew that the Avatar would eventually be coming. So he's like, "Welcome, Avatar!" He's got a handful of papers in his hand, and he's like reading lines and practicing.
Yeah. And then when Appa flies over,
and the papers fly out of his hand, and then he's like, "Oh, they're here!" And he's in shock for a second. And then he's like, "Welcome, Avatar!" And they're gone. And he's like, "Oh." But Netflix can't have fun. So Aang is asked by the Water Tribe, "Can you help us? Can you head up this battle?" He's like, I don't know how to do anything but airbend. I'm sorry, guys."
So Aang, after being told by other people,
You're a loser because
you didn't learn how to do the work. And Aang's like, "Oh man, guys, I really should have learned how to do waterbending." He goes and talks to Kuruk and tries to get him to do the work for him.
He's like, "Listen, Kuruk, my seat's the third one from the front of the classroom. I just need you to put on my clothes, go up there and take the English test. I got Kyoshi to do the math test for me. I need you to do the English test."
And then Kuruk's like, "Wait, buddy, I failed English."
It's okay, though. He goes over to the class pet, which is a fish, and he's like, "Hey, little buddy, can you do the work for me?" And the fish is like, "Yeah, I gotcha."
And then Yue talks about how because she was revived by the moonfish, she has a special connection with the spirit world, and so she's the bridge between worlds. She's not the bridge between worlds. Yeah. The Avatar isn't one of the bridges between worlds. He is the bridge
between worlds. Katara finally fights Pakku so that he can teach her. At least that's what she says, is she wants him to teach her. But then at the end, she's like, "You won't let me fight." She didn't even have to learn. She
learned
didn't have to try.
She learned from a scroll the whole time. Aang didn't bother learning waterbending, so she couldn't train with Aang. And in the original, Aang is learning from Pakku and secretly teaching Katara. But
we have to cut that out, because if Aang teaches Katara, then Katara's learning from a guy, and Katara can't learn from a guy because girl power.
Yeah, and then weirdly, for no reason, they remove the Pakku relationship to Katara's grandma.
Yeah, there's no reason for them to remove that. Zhao has an airship. How did he get the airship? I don't know. He must have somehow stolen the airship plans, or, maybe Jet just gave them to him, because Jet's the one that has the airship plans. We know this.
If Sai was going to give the plans, he was going to show the plans to Boomy, but then immediately turn around and give the plans to the Fire Nation. If that was the case, then why would Sai do that? Sai would be outing himself as a Fire Nation spy. And also, they built that thing so fast.
Katara's like, "You should let the women fight too. The women medics who have no army training, no ability to fight. We should have them fight, because we don't need medics if anyone gets injured, right? Why would you put your doctors on the front lines?"
I don't know, this doctor who's been studying his whole life to be a doctor, let's put a weapon in his hand, send him out on the front lines. He'll last way longer than our trained soldiers.
Momo dies. Momo is dead.
Yeah, Momo gets a fake out death.
And then he's brought back to life by Yue. Yue is a healer.
Iroh and Zuko are fleeing. Zuko and Zhao fight.
Yeah. And
then when they get done fighting, Zuko is like, "Wah!" and he turns his back, and Zhao's like, "I'll hurt you now." And then Iroh's like, "Oh no, you will be taking the nap," and he turns Zhao into a crispy French fry floating in the oil.
Yeah.
So Aang turns into a giant Godzilla monster, and he's like, "With the power of fish and anime on my side, I'll destroy the Fire Nation." Katara's like, "Wait, no, come back.
Come back, Aang.
She's whispering to him. He's like a mile away, girl. You at least have to try and shout. Why are you whispering to him?
Stop, don't come back.
Yeah, and then the whole thing is...
Well, not before they're like, Katara, waterbending master, you shall teach Aang, even though you've had no formal training to be a trainer or even know what you're doing. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're the master.
Yeah.
And then they're like, next season. I don't think I'm watching next season.
Unless this video gets 10,000 likes.
Let's go. Yeah, I guess 10,000. We have never uploaded before. 10,000 likes by the time the next Netflix show releases. Not next Netflix show, but the next Avatar Netflix. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends. If you have friends, I don't, so I don't share videos.